In this video, we're going to have a look at how to subtract two numbers both with and without decimals in the question. We are going to use a column method to do our subtractions. In order to do this, it's really important that we set out our question correctly. Have a look at how I've done this in the first example. It's really important to consider the place value of each digit and make sure you align the numbers in your subtraction correctly. For example, the 7 and the 3 are both units, so we've aligned them to the right in our column subtraction. Likewise, the 4 and the 8 are both tens, so they're aligned in the middle. If you have any empty columns, you can always add a 0 as a placeholder to help you answer the question. Now that we've set up our question correctly, we can start subtracting the columns. It's really important to start on the right hand side of your columns and to subtract downwards. So looking at our first column, we need to work out 7 subtract 3, which is 4. In our next column, we're asked to work out 4 subtract 8. Because we're trying to subtract a number bigger than 4, this would give me a negative answer, and we don't want that. Instead, I can borrow 1 from the next column along. So, if I take the 1 from this column just here, that's going to leave me with 0. And because I'm taking the 1 from the hundreds into the tens column, I now have 10 of them, meaning my 4 becomes 14. I am now able to work this column out. So 14 take away 8 gives me 6, and finally at the end 0 take away 0 gives me 0. This gives me a final answer of 64. I can use a similar method to work out my second question that has decimals in. Again, the way you lay out your question is really important. Have a look at how I've done it for the second example. When there's decimals, you always need to make sure the decimal points align in your column subtraction. This should also help to make sure the place value of each digit is aligned correctly in your subtraction. So for example, the 1 and the 7 are both units, which is why they're aligned. And likewise, the 9 and the 3 are both tenths, which is why they've been aligned as well. As with before, I can put zeros into the empty columns to act as placeholders to help me answer the question. So I can put a 0 here, and I can put a 0 here. Now that we've set up our question correctly, we can start working out our subtraction. Remember, it's really important to start from the right hand digits, and you need to subtract downwards. So our first calculation will be 0 subtract 4. Now, because 4 is bigger than 0, that would give us a negative, so I need to borrow from the next column along like we did before. Borrowing 1 from the 9 will reduce it to 8. And moving 1 from the tenths column into the hundredths column will make my 0 become 10. Now I can carry on working out my subtraction. So 10 take away 4 is 6, and 8 take away 3 gives me 5. I need to make sure my decimal points stay aligned, including in my answer. So my next column is going to have a decimal point in. Then I want to work out 1 subtract 7. As with before, because 7 is bigger than 1, this will give me a negative answer. So instead, I want to borrow from the next column along. Doing so reduces my 2 to 1. And taking 1 from my tens into my units will turn the 1 into 11. Now I can finish off working out my answer. So 11 take away 7 gives me 4, and 1 subtract 0 gives me 1. That means that my final answer is 14.56.